Karen Clark Sheard is known around the world as a gospel legend. Her voice is powerful, unmistakable, and filled with conviction. As a member of the Clark sisters and as a solo artist, she has inspired millions through songs that speak about faith, perseverance, and hope. From church pews to global stages, Karen's life can look like a story of uninterrupted triumph. But behind the harmonies, behind the applause, and behind the spotlight, there was a chapter of her life that remained deeply personal and painfully hidden for years. Today, we're exploring the emotional weight of that hidden chapter, not to sensationalize it, but to understand the humanity behind the legend. Because sometimes the strongest voices carry the heaviest burdens. Family secrets have a unique power. They don't just sit quietly in the background, they shape identities, influence relationships, and quietly affect mental and emotional well-being. In Karen's case, the secret she eventually revealed was not just a private matter, it was something that profoundly impacted her sense of self, her family dynamics, and her spiritual journey. When we think about public figures, especially those rooted in faith and ministry, we often assume their lives are anchored in certainty and strength. But Karen's story reminds us that even the most anointed voices wrestle with pain, even the most faithful hearts endure confusion, even those who sing about deliverance sometimes need deliverance themselves. The secret she carried was heavy. It created tension within the family structure and introduced emotional complexities that were difficult to navigate. There were questions that lingered for years. There were conversations avoided. There were emotions pushed down in order to maintain peace and stability. And that's often how family secrets survive, through silence. Silence can feel protective at first. It can seem like the safest option. After all, revealing the truth might disrupt relationships, invite judgment, or reopen old wounds. For Karen, the fear of how others would respond was very real. As a public figure, her life had always been under scrutiny. The thought of exposing something so personal felt overwhelming. But silence also has consequences. Over time, unspoken truths can begin to weigh heavily on the heart. They can create internal conflict, a quiet tension between who you are publicly and what you privately carry. Karen has spoken about how the secret affected her mental health. There were moments of doubt, moments of questioning, moments where she wrestled with her identity and her worth. That internal battle is something many people can relate to, whether they're famous or not. Carrying something painful alone can create a sense of isolation, even when you're surrounded by people who love you. For Karen, the emotional toll showed up in subtle ways. It affected how she processed relationships. It influenced how she responded to certain situations. It even impacted how she saw herself. When part of your story feels hidden or unresolved, it can make you question your foundation. Yet through all of it, one constant remained: her faith. Music became both refuge and release. When words felt too heavy to speak in conversation, they found their way into song. Gospel music has always been rooted in testimony and telling the truth about struggle and survival. And while listeners heard power and conviction in her voice, those songs often carried layers of personal meaning. There is something transformative about expressing pain through creativity. It doesn't erase the hurt, but it gives it somewhere to go. For Karen, the stage was not just a platform, it was a place of healing. Still, healing has a way of demanding honesty. At some point, the weight of keeping the secret began to outweigh the fear of revealing it. That's a pivotal moment in anyone's journey, when the cost of silence becomes greater than the risk of truth. Karen realized that if she truly wanted peace, she couldn't continue to compartmentalize her story. But choosing honesty is never simple. There were understandable fears. How would her family respond? Would relationships fracture further? Would the public misunderstand? In faith communities especially, there can be added pressure to appear strong, composed, and unwavering. Admitting vulnerability can feel like stepping into uncertain territory. And yet, courage often looks like vulnerability. When Karen made the decision to share her truth, it was not done lightly. It required emotional preparation. It required conversations. It required prayer. It required an internal reckoning, a moment where she chose authenticity over comfort. The aftermath was complex. There were tears. There were difficult discussions. There were reactions that ranged from shock to sadness. But there was also something else: understanding, support, relief. Because sometimes, when a secret is finally brought into the light, it allows others to exhale too. Truth has a way of creating space for healing. For Karen, revealing the secret was not about exposing anyone. It was about freeing herself. It was about breaking a cycle of silence that had quietly shaped her life. It was about reclaiming ownership of her narrative. And in doing so, she modeled something powerful: forgiveness. Family secrets often carry layers of hurt, misunderstandings, missed opportunities, unresolved emotions. Forgiveness does not mean pretending those things didn't happen. It means choosing not to let them define the future. Karen's journey toward forgiveness was not instantaneous. It unfolded over time. It required reflection. It required grace both for others and for herself. Self-forgiveness is often the hardest part. When a secret affects your identity, you may carry guilt that isn't even yours to bear. You may internalize responsibility for circumstances beyond your control. Karen had to unlearn those burdens. She had to separate her worth from the pain attached to the secret. That process is deeply personal. Healing doesn't happen overnight. It happens in conversations, in quiet prayers, in moments of clarity, and sometimes in therapy. It happens when you allow yourself to feel what you've been avoiding. It happens when you stop pretending everything is fine and begin to acknowledge what hurts. Karen's transparency also had a ripple effect. Fans who had admired her strength now saw her humanity more clearly. Her story became a reminder that faith is not the absence of struggle, it is the decision to trust in the middle of it. There's something comforting about knowing that even those we look up to face complex family dynamics. It makes their testimonies more real. It makes their encouragement more authentic. Family secrets, at their core, often stem from fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of disrupting the image of perfection. But perfection is not sustainable. Authenticity is. When Karen stepped into authenticity, she stepped into freedom. Freedom doesn't mean the past disappears. It means the past no longer controls you. It means you can talk about it without being consumed by it. It means you can look at your story, even the painful parts, and see growth. Her journey also highlights the importance of communication within families. Silence can create assumptions. Assumptions can create resentment. And resentment can quietly damage bonds. While not every situation requires public disclosure, many situations do require honest dialogue among those directly involved. Honesty is uncomfortable, but it is often necessary for repair. Karen's experience reminds us that vulnerability is not weakness. It takes immense strength to admit that something has hurt you. It takes courage to confront long-standing issues. It takes resilience to work through the aftermath. And resilience is something she has always embodied. If you listen to her music now, you might hear it differently. You might recognize that the passion in her voice comes from lived experience. You might understand that her worship is layered with testimony not just of success, but of survival. Her story also opens up a broader conversation. How do we handle family secrets in our own lives? Many people carry stories they've never shared. Some fear they'll be misunderstood. Others worry about hurting someone they love. Some simply don't know how to begin the conversation. There's no universal formula, but there are guiding principles: honesty, timing, compassion, and support. If revealing a secret feels necessary for your well-being, seeking guidance from a trusted counselor or spiritual advisor can help navigate the process. Preparing emotionally for a range of reactions can also make the aftermath less overwhelming. It's important to remember that you are not responsible for controlling everyone else's response. You are responsible for your truth and your healing. Forgiveness, too, is a journey. It may involve setting boundaries. It may involve redefining relationships. It may involve accepting that some questions won't have perfect answers. Forgiveness is less about excusing and more about releasing. Karen's revelation ultimately carried a message of hope, not because the secret itself was hopeful, but because the outcome was transformative. She moved from secrecy to transparency, from internal conflict to clarity, from heaviness to freedom. And that's a journey many of us can aspire to. The next time you hear her sing, remember that behind the strength is a story. Behind the smile is a survivor. Behind the legend is a woman who chose truth over fear. Her courage invites us to reflect on our own lives. Are there conversations we've been avoiding? Are there wounds we've been pretending don't exist? Are there truths we need to face in order to move forward? Family secrets can feel like walls, but sometimes, when carefully and thoughtfully addressed, they can become bridges leading to deeper understanding, stronger relationships, and personal peace. Karen Clark Sheard continues to inspire not just through her music, but through her honesty. Her story reminds us that healing is possible, that forgiveness is powerful, that truth, while uncomfortable, can be liberating. In the end, her journey isn't just about a secret. It's about resilience. It's about faith tested and strengthened. It's about choosing light even after walking through shadow. And perhaps most importantly, it's about remembering that no one's life is as simple as it appears. We all carry chapters that others cannot see. We all have moments that shape us in ways the public may never fully understand. The beauty of Karen's story is not in the pain, it's in the healing that followed. It's in the decision to speak. It's in the reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is always the possibility of restoration. Truth can be heavy, but it can also set you free. Thanks for the watching and subscribe.